take that as a good sign. Today, Kent Ockey is that how you pronounce your last name?
Yep, that's right.
Will be presenting on knowledge management. He's been at BYU for 15 years, but before that he had stints at WordPerfect, Novell, and at the LDS Church. 10 of the years that he worked here at BYU, he worked managing the global service desk for the LDS Church, which was managed here at BYU. And now we have him full-time for 11 years. He wears a number of different hats here, working on the service catalog, knowledge bases, release management, testing and quality assurance. He's served a number of different roles in OIT, from support agent, desktop technician, network engineer, and being a support manager. He has 3 daughters and a son, 2 of which have attended BYU, and we're very lucky to have him presenting his wealth of knowledge today. So I'll turn the time over.
All right. All right, well thanks Shane for that very touching tribute that I wrote for you.
Hey, Kent, before you start, would you mind passing the roll around for those that haven't signed?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you get it, Jim? All right. We'll start here. Okay, well thanks everyone for coming. Welcome to the super duper, hooba baruba, fantastically fun-filled knowledge management extravaganza. Right? We're so excited to come here today, I know. Because knowledge management is something we all wake up and just live for, right? Okay, well I didn't until I got a job, so it's understandable. So I just want to talk a little bit about kind of the goals today. There's a lot to talk about knowledge management. They came to me and they said, you know, we could give you 20 minutes or we could give you the whole hour. And I'm like, oh yeah, give me the whole hour. and that's not even enough for what I can do, but hopefully we'll make it relevant. So it's an interesting thing. Knowledge is like this really, really generic term, right? And so we have to figure out, what do we actually capture in OIT? Are we trying to actually duplicate all knowledge? We have an internet, right, that's been trying to do that for years and years now, and it still hasn't really captured it all. So we have to sort of pinpoint what knowledge we actually get captured. And then you got to store it somewhere, right? And it's got to be something that people can get to easily. And once you've got it stored, you got to figure out how to organize it so that it makes sense and can be accessible. Because you can store it all, but if you can't really access it, that's not really useful. Okay? And then once we have it all, what do we do with it? Right? Do we gather stuff that never gets used? You know, so all that goes into it. And ultimately, why does anyone in this room care? Right? So let me just do a quick survey. How many people in here are in engineering teams? Okay, got a couple of hands. Account management. Okay, got a few hands there. Support services. Okay, a few people there. Human resources. Business support. Okay, all right. So we've got a pretty good representation of OIT, right? Now hopefully, as we talk about this today, you'll all see something that's relevant for you in terms of the knowledge. So the big, I know, burning question that everybody has is this. Kent, how do I go from this tiny, puny, small brain that's weak and useless and pointless into this? Powerful, knowledgeable, right? Useful, all this great, cool knowledge and information. So hopefully when you walk out of here today, your brains will be a little bit bigger, right? Hopefully you'll be looking more like this.
Hopefully not.
What do you say? Is that not attractive? My wife was horrified when I showed her the poster.
You are not the man I am.
That's the cat we know now.
Yeah. Some of you didn't even notice the difference, really. All right, so warning, try to stay awake. We've got to do some boring background information first, all right? So let's get on to that. All right. Let's talk about how do products and services actually come into being. Let's hear from my account manager. How does OIT start a new process or project? What does that look like? Roy's got his mouth full.
That's Jeff.
Jeff?
So somebody's got a bright idea, and
Okay.
they gotta get the attention of their management. Who then has to get the attention of the vice president. If the vice president thinks it's a good idea, then it will go on to the resource plan for that year.
Okay,
And we will request funds from the church to pay for that.
okay. All right, good. So we get the idea approved, we get the funding, we get everything in place. All right, and now we actually enter a product life cycle, right? For what I'm calling the knowledge life cycle. So what's the first thing that has to happen? Bradley, what happens?
Someone has to know something.
Okay, what do they know?
The answer to a question, probably.
Okay. Generally, once it's been approved, you guys go out and you get a list of requirements. Hopefully.
So at the beginning of you're creating a product, sure, yeah. We
Okay,
need to know what we have to build.
right. So we kind of define what is the need, and we kind of come up with some requirements, an idea of what that is, right? And then it goes into engineering, okay? And the engineers, you know, hang out in their caves and wherever engineers hang out, and they code away happily for weeks and months and longer sometimes, and they come up with this great thing, okay? And finally, they get to the point where like, hey, I think we've done it, right? Let's go, let's get this thing out. So what's the next thing that's gonna happen?
Panic on the part of the support.
Yeah, right? Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? All right. What should happen after engineering's done? Okay, I heard it, Sharon, thank you. Okay, we get into like a beta, pilot test, it's called a lot of things, alpha, whatever you wanna call it, right? But it's not truly out there yet, right? And sometimes this happens with a very, very small group, sometimes we do something larger, okay? And what happens as we're doing beta test pilot to this engineer's perfectly created service or product,
Somebody wants a feature change.
okay? Yeah, we identify some bugs, right? Sometimes the pilot group will call up and say, hey, we got bugs and issues and things, okay? We send those back to engineering, and engineering takes care of a lot of those, right? Okay? So we get to the point where we say, look, this is good enough to roll out. Okay? What's the next step then? Anyone? Bueller?
Somewhere back down here, we should be having a change going.
Okay? Okay, so change.
Which should be way early on before this testing.
Okay? What other things gonna have to happen?
You have to let people know the product's there.
Oh, that's a good throw. All right, you have to let people know the product's there, okay? I'm gonna call this release type task, right? And I've kind of lumped the change into that. And you're right, it can easily happen even as far back as in engineering, right? It'd be great if it was happening by this point so we know. But there's a series of things that happen in release, okay? So let's see what some of those are, all right? Well, first we have to kind of describe to people what the service is. Kind of tell them how do you get to it, what does it cost. We create configuration information around it, RFCs, monitoring. There was a long list that was a little too long here. We'll talk about that in just a minute, okay? When we get into the release of the product, is this information that changes very much? No, not typically, right? Occasionally, maybe once a year, we might do a slight price adjustment, or we might roll out a new feature or something, but typically this is pretty static. So we release this unholy beast upon campus, and what happens next?
Rejoicing.
Rejoicing by the engineers. Christine, are you rejoicing?
Depends on how good the engineer is.
Yeah.
And how well the end user described their design.
Okay.
Suggested improvements and more feature requests.
Okay, suggesting more feature requests. That will shut. Okay, we kind of have this maintenance support phase of things, okay? And typically what that looks like is this. Now what do you notice here? Are we always able to fix every bug that's identified during the beta test phase of things? Microsoft does? okay? Most of the time we do, right? If we know about it, we generally fix it, okay? But there's sometimes something that we just go, you know what, it's too late in the game to change this for release. So we can pull a couple of those things that didn't get fixed, and we pull those into our main support process. What are the odds of somebody calling on something identified in pilot if that issue still exists in production? They're pretty good, right? If 10 people find this issue, and now you release it to 3,000 people, it's a pretty good bet that somebody else might run into that same thing, right? So we document. We document this, right? Okay, and then what else happens? Incidents, right? The stuff that we didn't think about, the stuff that didn't get identified during beta and test, okay? All right. Now, wouldn't it be cool if we could start tracking how often these things get reported? Would that be helpful? Who's one of my engineers in here? All right, tell me your name.
Eric.
All right, Eric.
For my name?
Wow. Yeah, because I'm going to use you.
Okay.
Get this out early.
Give it a shot.
Hey, Eric, what are you the engineer for?
I'm on the back end team for the Java development right now.
Okay, what's a service that you're actually working on?
Right now I'm working on the paid parking that's coming down the chute.
Paid parking, awesome. Okay, so we released paid parking, and we're starting to take some calls on it. And hey, Eric, you know what? In the last 6 months, we took 300 calls on paid parking, and I really want you to go fix those. Could you please go fix those calls? We're kind of tired of taking all those calls on this product.
Sure, give me the specs of what you want.
I just did. I just told you we have 300 incidents.
Wow.
So go fix it.
Okay.
Okay? Does this actually happen sometimes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, you should be able to see that many errors.
Okay.
You should be able to take care of the problem.
So, heaven forbid, an engineer actually has time to dig into this. What do you do as an engineer if I give you a list of 300 incidents and say, we need you to fix it?
Try to recreate every single one and identify where the problem was in the development or in the engineering.
Yeah, you got to go through 300 incidents, right? And try and understand that, okay? Well, one of the solutions we have is we try and kind of group things, we categorize a little bit. Maybe 100 of those are client related, right? And maybe 50 of them are server related, and maybe 75 were just user training issues. They just know how to use it, okay? So Eric, I just narrowed that down to 100 client issues. Can you go fix that for me?
I'll give it my best shot.
Okay. What are you back to?
Well, a lot of the times the first step is trying to figure out if it's misunderstanding or if it's actually bad development. A lot of times it's just the specs weren't exactly dead on. So you have to sort of sort through a bunch of that and figure out this was a feature that we put in, it's not a bug.
Okay. All right, good. All right. So we're getting a little closer, but it's still kind of difficult and it's time consuming, right? Just usually some poor student gets assigned the task, go through 300 incidents to figure them out, and then take your client ones and now break those down even farther, okay? Well, what if instead of doing that, we actually just started tracking knowledge-based articles that have been used to solve an issue? What if this exact knowledge-based article was used 300 times for traffic parking? Eric, where would you want to start as far as fixing something?
On my local machine, recreating the error is normally where I find the most success.
What do we have in a knowledge article that's a little more difficult to understand through a pile of incidents?
I don't know.
Okay. What's typically in a knowledge-based article? A symptom, right? A very specific symptom, right? And generally some sort of a workaround. So Eric, if I can give you the exact symptom and the exact workaround we're using to close that ticket, does that make your job easier as an engineer? That's kind of what he asked for right at the very beginning. Well, specs, right? What do I fix? Okay. So if I'm tracking all this, which one of these do I want to spend my time fixing?
Incident one.
Yeah, I mean there's different approaches, but in general, let's take care of this. What's the best call that ever happens to support? This is a trick question.
No call,
No call.
Oh, good
but
job.
I don't want to.
All right. Who else answered? Jeff? All right, here you go, Jeff.
Thanks.
Yeah, no call, right? If we could actually fix this, find the root cause of this, and nobody ever had to call on it, wouldn't that be awesome? What does that do for our support agents and our support resources? We just freed up a whole bunch of resources to focus now on other things that are going on, right? Okay, Eric, what's the next thing we'd want to probably dig into?
Probably one of those bugs that we got, bug 5 looks like a big hit.
Okay, yeah, because why? Because there's 100 of those, right? But our customers are screaming at us, fix this stuff. Our customers don't want to call on this stuff, and yet sometimes, some of you remember the old days when your TV had the indoor rabbit ears. Remember that? Okay, and every time you wanted to change channels, you had to get up and you had to go adjust the rabbit ears, right? Now, the solution is get an antenna on top of your roof, right? So you don't have to do that. But it's kind of a pain, it takes some effort. So we go 10 years adjusting the rabbit, and at some point, we don't even think about doing this, right? This is just part of watching television now. Well, that's what happens a lot of times with these types of issues. We end up fixing them so frequently, so often, we don't even think about it. We can do it in our sleep, right? Okay?
Yeah. One problem too that we see is in some cases, it's just to the point where the problem is so persistent and persistent, that pretty soon, in the case of students, for example, they just don't call them, they give up.
Yeah. How terrible is that, right?
So no calls doesn't always mean it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It can get to that point where people are just like, ah, it's just how it is. Right? So those are all kind of dangerous things. So using the actual knowledge-based tracking that we do, we can actually feed this back to engineers. Remember, these are customers screaming at us, fix this. Yes, Dan.
Well, Kent, we've generally been told to fix all incidents first before working on bugs. So I'm curious how you determine the priority of when you drop into bugs and leave incidents unfixed.
Well, incidents should always be fixed, right? This review is something that happens like after some period, like after 6 months or a year, you might identify these are really hot issues, and we may actually schedule some time and resources.
But what you're showing on this side isn't just, this is calls about those bugs, so they're really, an incident occurred, right? Isn't that what you're saying on this, in this lower column?
Yeah. So to your point, Stan, these are incidents, right? And all we've done is attach the workaround to fixing it. So your solution to the incident might be a workaround, or it might be a permanent fix. And if it's a permanent fix, great, we don't get any more calls on it, right?
Well, the bugs 2 and 5 would probably be categorized as known errors.
Known errors, yeah, that's the right terminology for it, yep. Okay, so you kind of see this life cycle, right, that happens. We kind of feed stuff back to engineering. Now, version 2 of the product comes out, and a lot of these things hopefully get fixed and reduced, okay? So this is all kind of fun and theory and stuff. Okay. Well, there's places we need to document everything that happens to the life cycle. In engineering, where do we store information really regarding just engineering stuff? Wiki. Okay. The wiki is really the official place. Okay. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of sort of semi-official Jira. Some groups use it, some don't. I see a lot of people using things like SharePoint, spreadsheets, Word documents. Okay, so there's a lot of data that happens within engineering. Okay, as a knowledge manager, I don't really deal a lot with this because each of the engineering teams has their own process and way of doing that. So I don't get too involved in that. Okay, in beta test pilot. Jira, again, is sort of the semi-official in my testing with groups. There's some groups that we really use Jira, it's nice. With other groups, they ask for an email. Just send me an email every time you find a bug, right? Some have a SharePoint site. Add a task to my SharePoint site. So we've got all these kind of things scattered out. So the place that as a knowledge manager I really focus on when we're talking about what do we capture, okay, it's in the release, all right? So we put all this stuff up on the IT page. All right. We make it an official service, and I'll show you why that's important in a little bit. We put it into the configuration database. These are all the official OIT resources. Okay. We have a change management system, right? The RFC process. And finance gets involved, right? So these are sort of the official repositories. Is everybody familiar with using these? When we get in this area, we talk about knowledge base, we talk about the incident tool, and then I do just some analytic spreadsheets. What I'm really excited about with the new tool, what I'm going to show you, we can do a lot more. Okay? Does that give you kind of this is the boring background information stuff? Okay. So when I first came here, there was this sort of concept that everything should go into the knowledge base. And that's really difficult to manage because you end up with a lot of duplicate, you end up with a lot of scattered information. So what we really tried to do is declare these things as the official source, and then we link to them from other sources. So I may have a knowledge base, and rather than list servers that could be outdated, 6 months later, in the knowledge base, what we would want to do is actually point to where? Cames, right? Because Cames has a better shot of being kept current if everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. All right. I'm going to talk about this real quick. One of the challenges of Knowledge Manager is this feeling that everybody needs to contribute everything all the time. Do you guys ever feel pressure to do that? Engineers, do you ever feel pressure when you release a product? Give us knowledge base articles that are going to happen. Well, I look into my crystal ball and figure out something. And I'm telling you from experience, the stuff that you guys come up with, a lot of that never gets actually called on, right? Because if you know about it, you've either fixed it or it's something that's pretty obtuse. All right, so RFCs help us, testing helps us, security. How long would you guys imagine it takes to complete all of these things when we roll out a new product? Any guesses? What was that?
Goes on for the life of the product.
Okay. With the initial release, how many hours do you think were spent putting all this stuff together?
A lot.
Depends on the product. Any ideas? Is it a day? Is it a week? Is it 3 hours? Fred? 2 hours? Okay. I've actually tracked this when we have new service releases, and depending on the product, 2 to 4 hours. How many hours do we spend on projects? One of my engineers, Tim, how many hours do we spend on projects?
Well, it can vary from a week to a year.
Significant time sometimes, right? Up to a
Yeah.
year's worth of effort.
Depending on like game or something like that, I'm sure it takes even longer.
And then we release it, and sometimes we don't do this. This is 2 to 4 hours worth of work. Consistently, this is what I see. There's been maybe one exception where we had to spend more time than that actually gathering this information. Okay? This is a really, really valuable investment at the end of a project to put 2 to 4 hours in after possibly a year's worth of work, right? To make sure that people understand what it is. Okay. All right. Anybody hate PowerPoint demos? Okay, let's do a live demo. All right, we need a victim. Volunteer. Victim, volunteer, raise your hand. All right, thanks, Dave. All right, I'm going to have you actually stand at the computer there. I'm going to show you how this works in real life. Okay? All right, here's a typical incident. And I happen to have an incident in here. David's going to help me solve this incident. David, you get to be a service desk agent today. Welcome, it's your first day. We're glad to have you. Thanks for coming. I have an incident here for David, and it's in a gift bag on purpose because I view incidents as gifts. Anybody else see that gift? I totally view these as gifts, right? So David, I'm going to call you up and we're going to go through this, okay? Ring, ring.
Hello. Service desk.
Hey, service desk. My name's Kent Ockey, and I've got something I really hope you can help me with.
What's your name?
Net ID, K-Ockey, O-C-K-E-Y.
Oh, there he is. Must call a lot.
I call a lot in the test system. All right. Well, yeah, let's just get to it. Let's go down to the short description, David. I'm going to describe my problem for you, okay?
What system are you trying to use?
I don't really know.
Okay.
It's just something that my manager said I had to use. I don't really know what it's called, but the thing is, the ball keeps falling off the track. So, I really need some help with that, Dave. Can you help me out? Christine's and I are not laughing because we actually get calls that are about that, Dave, right?
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Quite often it doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work. System doesn't work. All right.
Can't smell.
Okay, this is our current tool, and I want to do a quick demo through the current tool, and then we'll move on to the really cool, exciting new tool that's coming out. Okay? All right, so David, I'm going to help you out here. Do you know how to help me out yet?
Nope.
You have no idea, right?
I don't have a clue.
All right, because it's your first day. How would you know, right? All right, David,
In the
we're going to
real
give you...
service desk, you'd have someone sitting right with you.
Well, that's what all you guys are doing, right? You're not sitting right here with me.
Oh, I'm
In fact,
sorry,
you
you're
wouldn't
correct,
even be
Christine.
taking a call.
Everyone else in the room who hasn't been through this demo before? Can you help David out? Anybody have ideas to help me with my
Knowledge base.
Okay, let's look at the knowledge base. Now, it's a little hidden over here. If you go over to the right, that little, yeah, right there. Click on that. Oh, yeah, log in.
Yeah, that's pretty.
All right, you can open that up.
Oh, look, there it is.
What do you think, David? You got any help for me? I will tell you, it's falling off track at number 27.
Don't look at that one.
So, David, what should I do?
Be sure to keep the ball tilted so that the bail, so that the steel ball on the inside is leaning against the wall next to the track.
Oh my gosh, that is brilliant. Let me try that. It's beautiful. It works so well. All right. Now, what if David doesn't know? What am I even talking about still?
Not a clue.
Go ahead and click on this down here, David. This is the related service for this article. And then click on that service description. Okay? Perplexus balls. Anybody ever heard of it?
Yeah.
Okay. It seems a little bit of a silly demo, right? Or is what SportNest does really that different from this? It's not, honestly. Okay? This is like an engineered product, right? There's all sorts of complexity. Do we have complexity in the services we provide to campus? Yeah, there's a lot of complexity, right? And there's a lot of levels of people who can understand how to use stuff or not, okay? So that's our perplexus. So now as an agent on your first day, David, what do you now know?
I can see what the product is, what you're trying to use.
First of all, in less than a minute, you were actually able to give me a valid solution, right? Because clearly somebody else has called in about falling off the track at number 27. Right? Okay, you didn't really have to, you know.
Didn't have to know, didn't have to be too familiar with the
And
product.
even if you don't know what the service is, there's avenues for you to get some context as you're talking to me. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and close that down. So one of the things that was challenging here is, it's always challenging for knowledge management, is how do I integrate knowledge, what we call the speed of conversation. Who can tell me what the speed of conversation is?
BYU info.
What?
BYU info.
BYU info, that's the speed of conversation.
They can tell you the answer.
That is the response while you're addressing somebody.
Yeah, they typically, you don't know that they're even looking at any kind of knowledge base, right? Neil, you had a response?
Yeah, just basically while you're talking to them, they're looking up the answer, and you
Yeah.
the answer while they're.
So in my example with our current KB, was that the speed of conversation?
No.
There's a little delay, and if this was a real scenario, right, I mean, this has clearly been set up to work very effectively, right? But a lot of times it's not that straightforward, right? The customer's giving you some confusing information and that kind of stuff, right? So it's not always having the speed of conversation. There's a lot of, let me just put you on hold for a minute, that kind of stuff, right? Okay, while they just get some context and search some articles. Okay, David, go ahead and close back out. Go back up into the search. Let's do something more generic. Go ahead and just type in email guide. Okay, this is going to be a different incident. All right, let's do a search on that. What do you guys notice?
35 pages.
Look at that.
There's a lot.
Hey, customer, let me put you on hold for 3 weeks, and I will sort of try and figure this out for you, because I've only got 874 articles through. Alright. Okay, there's some tricks we can use to get this narrowed down. What can we do?
Just finding out specifically what they want to do with the email. Are they trying to log on? Are they trying to say, get connected? Or are they
Yeah.
having something inside of the email that's
So
having a
more
problem?
specific keywords. Let's type in login or log on. Okay, let's redo that search. Oh, whoops. Okay, we're gonna put you on hold for 4 weeks. my bad. Okay. All right. Let's do this, David. I'm gonna help you out here. Go ahead and pick email as the service. There it is. Okay, let's see what that does for us. Okay, what just happened? So awesome, right? Well, you gotta put him on hold for a week. Then I got 293 to go to. All right, there's some search tips that we use, okay? Go ahead and put a plus sign in front of guide. I actually haven't tried this, so I don't know how this is gonna work. Plus sign means it must contain the word guide. Word to word. Whoa. Okay, what just happened? Okay, so we have some tools currently that let us get to a solution pretty quickly, right? By limiting the service, every article is tied to relevant services that have to do with actually that article. Okay, and sometimes it's one, sometimes it's 4 or 5, however many we need to tie to that, right? We went from 1,200 articles down to 2. How long would it take us to do that? Pretty quick. Is that the speed of conversation? We're getting closer, right? Okay. All right, I want you guys to see what the current situation is, because I want you to get excited about what's actually coming. Now, Tim, stand up. Tim is doing an absolutely incredible job developing this new knowledge base tool for us. I am so excited about it. And he's done things that are just blowing my mind, honestly. I didn't want to have to admit that in public, but. All right, David, thank you.
Okay.
David is an awesome service desk agent. All right, we need a new service desk agent. All right, thank you. All right. What do you notice here? We're in the test system now. This is the new cool stuff. Bradley's just smiling like crazy because he knows how cool this is. All right, let's do this call again. Hey, ring ring.
Search desk, can I help you?
Hey, search desk. Got a problem here. Why don't you help me out? My net ID is Ockey.
All right.
about the minutes.
OCKEY. Okay,
All right.
and, ball's falling off the track, number 27.
Whoa.
Okay, I'm hearing some oohs and ahs. What's happening while she's typing? Look at that,
All right.
okay? All right, what's the solution?
Well, it looks like the truck is designed to be very thin in the front. So if you keep the ball tilted so that the steel ball on the inside is leaning against the wall next to the truck, then you should be all right.
All right, good. Okay, let's build this out. Is that pretty cool? All right, is that at the speed of conversation? It's pretty dang close, right?
Yeah, right there.
All right. You can either preview it, if you click on it, it actually opens it, okay? Let's see, let's do something a little bit. Let's go up here and do our email thing again. Email guide. All right. We got a lot of, this article comes up at the top every time, I don't know why.
That is awesome.
That is a test. It doesn't matter what you search for, but it makes us happy. Okay? All right. Doesn't that just feel good?
Say happy place.
Thank you, Catherine, for making my life so enjoyable.
You're welcome.
All right. I'm going to show you a couple other cool things here. Oh, actually, I forgot to finish this up. Now, what if I actually do know what the service is? And honestly, most customers actually will be able to tell you what, at least what the product or services they're using. Is that, I don't know, service desk people, is that pretty common that they can at least tell you, I'm calling on AIM or I'm calling on Organ Suite, right?
About 70%.
Yeah, okay, so something like that. So I'm gonna put email in here. Okay, go back down here, just type do a space or anything, just to redo that search. All right, what happened? There. Okay, before we had relevant and maybe not so relevant results, right? It's actually filtering now on the service that we put in. Okay, and now we're getting stuff that's only related to the email service.
One more happy face.
No more happy face. Happy face and email do not go together. Okay. All right. Let's look at some other things. Go ahead. Go put my ball tracking thing back in. All right. Yeah, we can go ahead and close out of this for a moment. All right, what do we see here? If we have problems that have already been documented, these are known issues, right? Problems we're tracking, it also will do the search and let you know this is a known problem, right? This is something we are tracking. We can attach whatever that problem is to the incident, and that helps our problem folks tremendously. Okay. What about this? If there's any incidents where this type of thing is reported, we now can look through incidents. Maybe there's not a knowledge base article that deals with this.
Are those open or closed or historical instance?
We are playing with the dates on that. Right now, is it set for a year, Tim? 13 months?
I think so, 13 months is what it's set for right
We
now.
tentatively just thought maybe some of these things happen sort of annually, like beginning of semester, fall semester might generate things
These
after.
incidents should be closed though. We're not gonna keep incidents open for a year.
Yeah, I don't know if it filters whether they're open or closed, or it's just looking at all incidents that are created less than a year, 13 months ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of, that's pretty neat, is there any kind of a trending feature in there, so whatever questions seem to be coming up the most over the last hour or the last day?
Yeah, there
last
is.
week?
I wasn't planning to demo it today. There actually is a place where I can go look and see search terms and kind of get an idea of what's being searched most commonly.
I was thinking more along the lines of the types of questions people are calling in and asking about, I guess maybe the search terms gives you that idea.
Yeah, I'm gonna approach that a little bit differently in a minute, Stan. I think I can show you something that actually addresses your question.
Okay.
Okay. All right, and then the last one here is just the catalog. Maybe they're just a question about what the cost of the Perplexus, right? This Perplexus service. And this is test data, so it's not necessarily working. What's another cool one we could add here, which we're planning to add? What would be relevant for someone facing an incident?
Cat pictures.
Cat pictures. And I can keep that cat busy for a long time. Look at this, Bradley. Okay, good answer, but not, maybe not what I was looking for. RFCs. Would it be cool if we had an open RFC, right? Something that was in progress, and we could easily tie that. So we'd have an RFC up in here that would say, this service is being worked on right now, and then you can tell the customer, oh, I totally know what's going on. We're actually in some maintenance window on this server that you're trying to access, right? Okay, so we're gonna add RFC in here as well, which hopefully will help us. Is this pretty cool stuff? Is this speed of conversation kind of information? Yeah, it's really awesome. Okay.
However, I see one little problem. On short description, because those answers come so fast, and they're going, oh, here's my answer, they may not finish that short description, and
Yeah.
that is necessary.
Yeah, we need to really work with some training and some quality assurance type things, right? Because, yeah, they'll figure it out really quick, right?
Yeah.
So. All right. Let's finish out this incident, okay? Let's go ahead and put in the Perplexus as the service.
Go back to that.
Okay, and pick any symptom category. Click on it, we'll just get some possible options going.
Pick one, yeah.
And we just need an assignment group. We're just gonna fill in random data here to show you something else.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
All right.
Don't worry about that one.
We'll also need to fill out priority. I'm just having us fill in the required things. So go ahead and click on priority.
So scroll down a little bit.
Yeah, so you have to scroll down and just fill in
Put
random.
lower, whatever.
It must be critically extreme.
Yeah, there's a drop down that you can choose. It's okay, it's her first day as a service installation.
It is.
Let's see.
Say,
Oh.
Okay. All right, and go ahead and fill out an entry type. I think this is gonna be required. We just mixed up. Yeah, it doesn't matter anything.
What?
Garbage.
Garbage.
All right, let's say, heaven forbid, the unthinkable happens, and there is no knowledge base article that addresses the issue. I called in, and I want to find out what the heck's going on at point number 54 on the track, right? And nobody else has ever called on number 54, right? And I've looked at the knowledge base dutifully, it's not there. What do I do?
It is knowledge base.
Okay? Well, before I create the knowledge base, what do I have to do?
You gotta figure it out.
I gotta solve it first, right? All right, what have I basically done with an incident? I've already captured the issue, the short description, right? Is the symptom or the issue that somebody called in. I've already added some notes about maybe some troubleshooting or some steps I've taken. And at the end of the call, when I close it, what have I put in the work log as closing comments?
Close,
what happened to fix it, right? Okay, what have I kind of created here in an incident? KB. Neil's my plant. He hears me talk about this stuff all the time. All right. Gosh, that would be so cool if I didn't have to cut and paste and go create a knowledge base from scratch. Would that be nice? Okay, go ahead. Now, we're working a little bit on this still, so this is still just a little rough. But what do we have here? The symptom, the notes we took. If we had filled this out a little better, we're still working on something. Essentially, I've created a knowledge base article. Is that the speed of conversation? Is that capturing knowledge in a way that's not super intrusive as it just comes in, right? Just collecting as it comes in. You've already done the work through the incident. Why would we have you go recreate? In the current tool, we have to go recreate all this stuff. We have to cut and paste or rewrite it. And as a result, what happens to our knowledge base?
Continual improvement.
Yeah, well, what happens is agents just don't take time to do it. They're busy. They've got the next call waiting, right? And that's important. We've got to get to that call, okay? So this is a really, really cool thing that we can create the knowledge base, okay? All right. All right, let's go back to the incident.
So how do you keep from getting just knowledge-based articles out the yin-yang so you have so many that you can't even tell which one's right?
Does it matter if I have 1 million articles out there?
If they have conflicting information, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's not so much that there's so many, because we may actually have 1 million unique issues that have unique solutions to them, right?
Yeah.
So the number is not really relevant to me. What is relevant to me is, are they good, are they duplicates, that kind of stuff, which I think is what we run into a lot right now. Let's go ahead and go back. And you know what, I'm going to let you sit down. Catherine, I'm going to have you just...
Well done, Jen.
Your mentoring paid off.
Okay, let's go back to that incident.
Okay, it's open.
All right.
You got a question, Ken?
Oh, go ahead.
Quick question is, so when does it actually create the knowledge base? Is it upon typing, or is there a button that you click that actually creates it? Just so we avoid duplicates, if like you start typing and you realize that the answer's already there.
Just when you click save.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I'm going to show you one more thing, and then we're going to get into that, and then we're going to get into Dave's or Stan's question. Okay, Catherine, let's go back and let's find that KB.
Which one? This,
Yeah, just do the search on that.
oh, which number was it?
Just search on this. All right, pull up that KB. Now, the flop set is true here, and I should have showed this earlier. What if I could just simply mark that KB as a solution? Right now, we have to actually physically copy or put in the number. Okay. We're looking at exploring at some things that we could do that pull in not only the KB number, but possibly solution information, possibly resolution categories, possibly who the source of the information is. There's all this stuff we can suck out of the KB potentially into the incident. What does that do for our agents? It saves them a ton of time, right? They don't have to necessarily go fill out every one of those required fields. So we've got a meeting next week. We're going to explore the opportunity to do some of that. But I just want to see this. So mark that as a solution. All right, we're going to run out of time. We're going to run through some stuff really quick. First of all,
So that, put that as the solution capability, is that okay?
Yep, and that's not tied as a solution. It also ties it as simply a KB that was used as part of the solution, even though it maybe wasn't the ultimate solution. So there's some interesting data that we can kind of get at that. Why is this KB looked at a lot, but not actually used as a solution? Does the KB need to be fixed or improved? So, all right, let's address the issues about duplication. Catherine, let's go create a new Hudson article. Actually, let's go into the knowledge. Alright. When an article gets created that's in a draft state, this is new for us. When you feel like it's ready to go, right, after you pulled it out of the incident, you click submit for review. Okay. Once you've done that out. So now we have what's essentially a sort of a group of people that we say are good for a second set of eyes. Maybe you're a brand new agent, we don't quite trust you to publish things yet. Maybe you're even an existing, a long-term agent, but we just want to have a second set of eyes review things. So there's a couple of reviews that can happen. One is what we're calling a team or peer review. We're still working on terminology for that. That somebody else will look at to make sure it's not just complete craziness, right? Does that answer some of your concern a little bit? Okay. Look at this. We actually have a button that searches for duplicates. It will look for some of the same terminology, and if something's already been written along that, then you can see that, oh, maybe I just need to update an existing article as opposed to create a completely separate duplicate issue. Okay. Let's go back. There's so much stuff here I want to show you guys, but we're out of time. Let's see. Once it's been reviewed, let's go down, Catherine, to this stuff. A lot of times, the agent's pretty confident in the solution that he's given us, right? Sometimes it would be really nice if either the engineer and or product manager also just gave it a look over, just checked it, right? Make sure it was good. So this is really cool. What this will do, if you click engineering view, it actually looks at the services associated to this. And in the drop-down box, it will give you a list of only engineers tied to those services. So you just have to kind of know which engineer. A lot of times it's the same guy, but what this will do is it will actually create a task for him to go review that article. Once he's reviewed it, then when all the reviews are done, then we actually publish. Okay. All right, I'm going to show you something else real quick. Catherine, let's go to the main page.
The public page or?
Public page on IT Test. Yeah.
People still can't see our KVs in draft though, right?
Right. Yeah, if it's in draft, it's invisible to searches, to other things. You have to go through a back-end view to really see it. So, yeah. That's cool then. Go ahead and type in Ken Greer. I was hoping Ken was going to be here today. I wanted to make fun of him. We'll do it without him here. You guys can tell me I made fun of him. Okay? All right. This is a knowledge-based article. It's going to cause any complaints all the time. Go ahead and open it. Okay? Steve Ball has a crack in it. I called the governor and demanded to get this fixed. Does that sound like Ken? Okay, what's the solution? No, Ken, that was a very interesting story, Ken. All right. What are we looking at here? We're looking at self-service, published knowledge-based articles for the first time ever, right? Whatever we have solutions for, we can expose to the public. Now, we won't expose stuff that they shouldn't have, and I'm going to show you how we do that. Let's go ahead and edit this. Sometimes there's an issue where there's stuff you do want the customer to be able to see and stuff you don't want the customer to be able to see, right? Okay? So we have actually multiple fields in here, okay? So as Ken says, let me tell you a story about a time. It's a very interesting story, Ken. Here's what I don't necessarily want Ken to see on the main page. Hey, support agent, here's what you can do that Ken doesn't necessarily do. Pat Ken on the back and tell him it's important, right? And if it gets really extreme, if we really trust somebody, we can actually have Elaine sit down with Ken and try and help him out, right? Okay? This is an area that only people with certain access levels for rebooting servers or certain passwords or certain security type things, we can put information in here and you will only see this information if you actually have the rights or access to see that. Okay? This is information that our support desk and OIT people in general will be able to see. This is sort of the, I got to go into a back-end administrative tool and do something in Active Directory or something like that. But you'll notice that the only things that got published, actually we're gonna add this, but the only things that get published are these things here, right? Is that cool? Self-service, right? And not only self-service, but in a way that we can have multiple sets of instructions depending on your ability to perform this task. Is there a question?
I was just wondering how you designate who's got rights, or how you tell that there's more rights that you might need to see something.
There's extensive role management service now. We're just using that existing role management. A lot of that comes from grow groups.
Okay.
And so these groups will probably be managed through grow groups, and so we'll add people in or out as we need to. Some of those grow groups happen automatically, so just by being an engineer.
So are there multiple elevated rights then, so that, or is there just one group that's got elevated rights?
Just one group.
Okay.
Yeah. We battled that over the years, and we ended up just with one group. That was true in our old KV as well. All right, we're out of time. We're going to show you one more cool thing. So, let's go show them the Perplexus service. If I'm a product manager, who's product managers in here? That's good. Okay, Fred. If you're the product manager for Perplexus, let me show you what to do. You can simply go in here and you can say, show me all related incidents, right? If you just want to get some details. You can go in and see what problems are related to this. You can go and see what changes are happening with your service. Okay? You can see if there's enhancement requests that are pending out there. Okay? And look at this. Remember how we talked about how it's a gift? We talked about with Eric. Where does Eric start fixing the problem? Where does Eric start? This one has been used the most times, 10 times. That's probably the place to start addressing issues for this. Reducing or eliminating problems with the Perplexus file having a crack in it. What's a possible solution? Use better plastic with the next version, right? Okay? There's all kinds of things we can figure out. So I want you to see this. So you can go and you can see at any time. This is so easy. Remember, these are customers screaming at us. They're sick of calling about my cracked bulb. Right? So this is really valuable information. Well, I'm out of time. Any questions?
So for this seems to be a real valuable area after, obviously with service desk and incident management, getting people back up quickly is job one.
Right.
Then job two is this, where long term we can continue to improve. So does this mean that there's a KB associated with every incident? So that you can have this kind of statistic? In other words, when an incident gets resolved, is there a KB associated?
Only if the agent actually associates a KB to it. So we've tried to make that as absolutely easy as possible by just saying the mark a solution button, hoping that every single incident will get a KB attached to it. But I know there's going to be situations where that just doesn't apply.
And there are situations in labor where a KB doesn't even make sense. For
Yeah.
instance, every time they reset a password, they don't want to go and try and track down a KB article to match it. Or maybe the solution is actually out on Google. It's a Google thing they have to do, or something like that. So unless we want to associate went to Google as a KB article, which, depends on what the final objective is. But for the bulk of them, they should have a KB.
So again, if you went to Google, you would end up putting that solution in
Right.
the incident. We've got a button that says create a KB. We're hoping to really raise the ability to capture this stuff, again, speed of conversation type capture of stuff, so that hopefully we will see more and more of this stuff get associated. Because what's really important to me about this is the very specificity, right, that this provides for people who actually need to fix it. Because our engineers can't fix general, we're having a lot of calls on client issues, right? It's just hard, but this is something that actually gives them a fighting chance at identifying the right solution for it. So, yeah. All right, other questions?
I was just going to add in that regard, I think the support agent has an incentive to fix it because that's going to get engineers to fix it so that they can stop taking calls on that issue.
One of the things I'm hoping as we talk about what to suck in from the KB itself into the ticket our agents will prefer to do that to avoid having to fill out every single field. If we already know what the information is, what is that resolution service? The KB is gonna tell you exactly. So I'm hoping to drive better KB usage through some of this kind of stuff.
Gives us good metrics about what agents are and
Yeah,
not.
yeah. The agents do a really, really good job. In one of my past lives, yeah, we're done.
When does this roll out?
Bradley.
Well, so we'll probably be code complete on the initial version of this by the end of this week. So by the end of today, we'll have a lot of stuff.
The end of this week is now.
But because we're coming up to the end of the semester and the freeze period and stuff related to that period, we'll probably wait till a little bit.
The actual coding, we think will be pretty darn close in the next week. There's some migration stuff we gotta do, pulling KBs out of the current into this, and that's gonna require some of this mass review of reviewing articles to get the mix right. We're gonna take about a month to do that. We're gonna roll it out in pilot, and we're gonna let people actually use it live and identify issues and fixes and enhancements and things that we want, while we still have project funds to deal with those. So, in a month, a pilot, however long that pilot takes, 3 or 4 weeks after that, maybe we'll be fully live on this.
Sounds like by summer term.
Yeah, that'd be great if we could actually get that done. So, okay, other questions? All right. Anybody's welcome to come find me at my desk. I'll show you any other things. There's still just tons of cool stuff that we weren't able to show you here, but I hope you get kind of the vision of it. So thank you.